about what I'm capable of. And EVE Online is one of those games that doesn't protect you from the cruelty of other people.
Yeah.
And you learn real quickly, like either you're going to get with the program and you're going to be a wolf, or you're going to get just fed on constantly.
Yeah.
And I had this never given up kind of attitude. And so that's kind of what sparred me to start the Bombers Bar. And I just started getting a bunch of guys that liked doing the same stuff I did around me, surrounded myself with those people, and I just went for it. And again, they're still active to this day. I don't look back on my EVE days at all and go, that was a waste of time. That taught me so much about myself, about other people. And in a lot of ways, EVE Online can, like, Star Citizen can learn some lessons from EVE.
My gosh,
if they have, like, if they have a good sandbox that allows for interactions of players to be authentic and to be visceral and to be highs and lows, because you can't have the highs without the lows. It doesn't work like that.
It's got to be.
You cannot have those highs. Like when let's say we destroyed an Idris, and we know that it takes 30 days to get an Idris back, and it took them weeks to get the parts. It took them hundreds of hours of training to get the right guys in the right spots, and but they just lost the battle to our team because we did an equal amount of training. And we know the value of that win. If you cheapify it, if you dumb it down to the point where it's like, you won, okay, it respawn, new Idris in 10 seconds, and you're back on the grid. It's like you'll never get that high without the low. The question is, are the lows low enough to walk people away from the game?
Yep.
And the truth is, there is a level of attrition that if you're going to get that level of high, there's going to be a level of attrition because the lows are going to pull people away from the game. But if your game is interesting and immersive enough, people will be willing to go through that and get really mad, but that's good. You want that. You want the PvP rage. Like, that's a good thing. Because then you can take that and go, like, okay, take that energy, now put it into learning how to play the game better, and go out there and kick their ass.
And then when you start to win after losing, it's like, oh, it's the drug. That's the drug right there, right? It's like it's like why people appreciate Elden Ring. It's like, because Elden Ring is about getting your ass kicked, and then you start to be like, oh my god, I'm capable of beating these bosses, and then you start to get better at it. Then you start to master it, and then you start to get creative with it, and like that's all the traits that I hope Star Citizen has. And what terrifies me about your example is that we're expecting this to pivot towards a game, and hopefully not that when you kill the Idris, the guy goes, all right, well, I'm going to go reclaim it, and I'm going to pay the expedite fee. It's back out in 5 minutes. That would be so horrible to the game. And that's the thing about EVE, right? Is like, EVE is advertised as like Game of Thrones in space. It's brutal, it's storytelling, it's this open world where, you can suffer if you don't play right. But that's the beauty of it, because that's what makes you good. Even if you're not good at PvP, or you're not interested in PvP, but you want to be a cargo hauler, there's got to be, and I don't know this, maybe someone in my chat can say this or not, in my comments, sorry, but it's got to be rewarding when you master the cargo hauling. You're like, okay, I know that these routes are dangerous. I know that this is where people are more likely to interdict. And if I actually go around this moon and I land at this outpost and I sell at these 2 locations that aren't as common, I'm going to make a lot of money, and not many other people know that. There's a skill ceiling to that too, right? And I think that avoiding death could be a lot of fun for people as well. Go ahead.
It was a fun little 1-minute blurb about the experience of a new player in Elden Ring. And how, like, they're like, ha ha ha, it's gonna be so good, and then they just get absolutely mauled to death.
Bro,
right?
That was me, man. And then I like streamed it to a few friends of mine, and they're like, I'll do this, I'll go, like, don't go fight that boss straight away, go do this. And then I started to get so addicted to it, and now I'm of the opinion it's one of the best games I've played.
And that's the thing, right? Like, I don't know, like, if I post it to you, I'm not sure if you'll be able to see the audio and the recording that way, but it's it's relevant to our point we're talking about, because this encapsulates the experience of a new player walking in day one, having no idea how deep and how difficult the game can be and what the experience is like when they're going through it. And it's just this horrible experience. But at the end, it's like, damn, I killed the one like early enemy at the beginning. They're like, yes, you know what I mean? Like, yes.
They tried to pirate me, I got them, or they interdicted me, and instead I turned it on them. Yeah, like it's.
Yeah, I mean.
But you got to suffer a bit, right? Like you have to suffer specifically in the early stages. Like, and it's up to CIG to find the balance in that. But at the beginning, it's got to suck. You know, like, and it doesn't have to suck for a long time, but like there has to be a learning journey to this, you know, like, and you have to be able to go make the mistakes. You pay for those mistakes, hopefully not too much. And then you gradually get introduced and taught into the game and you start to learn things. And then it starts to feel so rewarding. But if they give that to everyone for free, they'll just, your entire emotions will just be placid the whole time, right? It'll just be a neutral experience. Oh, cool. I hopped in, I flew a spaceship, but it wasn't that great. Or I did PvP and it just felt like I was killing an NPC, you know, like it was just, and it's got to get deep, you know, like both on the bigger picture, but also in the minute to minute gameplay. And I don't want to pivot to Masterminds yet, but keep going. Go for it.
I wasn't going to say nothing about Masterminds. So I do agree that in order for the game to survive in the longevity sense, it must be deep, engaging, and it must be able to give you those highs. Now, I do agree, though, after having conversations with Faristar and some other members of the community, now we are both PvP gentlemen. We both enjoy that aspect of the game. We've been through that crucible and we've gotten very angry about what has been perpetrated on us. And so we've decided to take action about that. Some people are still at that stage of their journey where they're enjoying their ship and they don't want nobody to mess with it. And they want to name it special names and they want to have their fantasy about it. And that's totally fine. Right. And I do agree with Faristar in the sense that if people are not ready to take that step, they should maybe be allowed to live in the bubble padded universe for a degree. And like I do agree that, right? Like if you're in Stanton, you know, it's like they might have to implement a mechanic like how Concord was in Eve, where the second you open fire on somebody, a Navy ship just drops in within 30 seconds and boom, you've got F8 lightnings on you. And you game on,
clone outside of that system and stuff like that if you die, so you can't just go back in or respawn there. There's some mechanics that they can do that. You know what it is? It's Terra, right? Like, because that's the high security system that's on its way, which is going to be like the Jita equivalent. Terra will be like Jita. You know, you're not PvPing in Jita, or if you are, you're under the assumption that it's a suicide mission. You know, and you're going to try and do some damage before you die, and it's probably going to cost you more than it costs them. But it's like the high security experience. And do you know what the thing is, dude? I have been pro high security, having very little PvP. Like in the sense that give them.
I would genuinely be okay with having armistice zones all over the place for high security area.
And it's like like make PvP there so taxing to someone who wants to try and do it that it's just not sustainable. And the reason I want that though is for a different reason than people think. Some people are like, oh, like everywhere should be attackable, no one should be safe. And like, while I agree, but the problem is the guys that want that, the people that are this brutal Eve style, we need PvP everywhere, right? You're not paying for the game. It's the guys in the 890 jumps who just want to, you know, sail into the sunset.
Yeah, but even Eve doesn't have like guns and blazes everywhere you go. Like most, like a good 50% of Eve is security, low sec, high sec space.
And they think the
other 50% is but there's a culture. Here's the thing though. The culture in Eve is everybody fights. Even if you're a high sec dwelling, you know, hyper nerd, you're still, I mean, I knew guys that would spend their entire time playing Eve in high sec and then they would join us on Bombers Bar fleets. Like we'd have public fleets, like anybody could join. And these guys that don't do PvP would join our fleets and they would go and attack carriers and all these other ships that they would never be able, because again, those ships aren't even allowed in high sec. Right. So like it's the equivalent of Idrises aren't even allowed in Stanton. Like you'll never see one in Stanton because they're not allowed to exist there. They can only exist in Pyro and lower six systems.
Oh my gosh! Yep.
Because if you were to bring a player Idris to Stanton, the Navy would say that's illegal. You can't have a ship of that weapon class in a high sec area. We're going to come attack you, and you'll just lose all the time because the Navy is always supposed to win.
It's on cooldown for 90 days. Yeah.
Right. So you would never see that. So you want to have incentive. And again, show me the incentive structure, and I'll show you the outcome of your game.
Yeah.
Because if the incentive structure meets the outcomes you're looking for, that's what people are going to do. If you don't incentivize people to learn the game, to get better, to get the higher rewards, nobody's going to look for the content you're looking for. If you don't incentivize people to do bounty hunting and to take risks, like go to Jump Town, like if you make more money doing something that's 100 times less risky and nobody bugs you, of course everyone's going to do that, and it's just going to totally kill the game for risk reward.
Oh, I hate that.
And but the guy that puts 10 million credits of his own money on the line and then doesn't insure it and flies to somewhere in the system to sell it with no escort, well, you're taking a risk. You're taking a big risk.
And that's why I was pro high sec. Like people would always be like, oh, Virgil like wants the Care Bears to have their space. It's not about that. It's about, I want the guys who are paying for the game, okay, which is a decent chunk, that aren't interested in the sweaty dogfighting that you and me are, or the warfare, the FPS, the clashing of egos that is PvP. Those, the fragile guys, or I shouldn't say that because I got roasted in my comments about being mean to people who aren't interested in PvP. But those guys who aren't interested in, I'm fine with giving them their space because they paid for their experience. But put them in a corner of the sandbox, i.e. high security, where they get what they want and they can't complain about the other aspects unless they leave it. So it's like if you put the guys that aren't interested in PvP into their section of the game, then they can't complain about what happens in the other sections. And the other sections can be brutal beheadings, terrorism, and all kinds of PvP in between, right? Like the gloves absolutely off. CIG aren't even allowed to get involved in any of the refereeing of PvP, stream sniping completely open, like anything. Let the outskirts, so like null security in this case, just be, the wild, wild west, baby. Like, and as wild as it gets, and then the low security, which is Stanton in this example, maybe like semi-moderated, right? Like you can PvP within their structure. You're not doing the crazy stuff, right? And that's kind of what low sec is in EVE. And then high security is where the people aren't interested in. But the high security comes with a cost. You're not experiencing the whole game, and you're not making a ton of profit that you would be if you were risking it in the outer systems, right? Like that's the 20-year model that EVE made and is proven to work. And I think that ticks all the boxes where everyone's happy. Because 3 years ago, Avenger, people wanted a slider for fucking PvP, right? You press a button, you don't take damage in PvP, right? So it's like this ticks all the boxes for me. And you and me are very much of this opinion, right? Like for us to get our rocks off, we have to PvP against people that are willing to play, right? But for me, I don't enjoy killing players, and I used to back in the day, but I don't enjoy killing or PvPing against players that aren't interested or aren't even trying to compete. Like I don't get any dopamine from smoking some dude in an Origin 300 or something,
Yeah, so it's mostly boredom kills, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
for me, I'm in like guys will poke me and they'll say, "Hey, there's one or two guys. They're like hanging out in like these like lame ass ships at Jumptown. Let's go bust them up." And I'm like, that seems like such a waste of my time.
Yeah.
If you said, "Hey, it's so and so's crew and there's 10 of them there," I'm like, let's go bust that up. That sounds fun, right?
Dude, exactly.
But. And like Jumptown, like if I'm the only one at Jumptown, I'm just and a guy shows up, like, it's Jumptown. Sure, I'll shoot at him because I'm just bored, right?
Yeah.
But I'm not like shooting him and being like, I'm like that meme with the sad hitman monkey where it's just like, you know what I mean? It's just,
and you're not seeking it out, right? Like that's not, and that's the problem with some of the PvP organizations, some of the smaller ones.
Oh, don't get me. No, hold on.
Go ahead.
I will. engage people
sure,
all
me
the
too.
time. You know, if I'm in a cuddy blue, I'll engage them, I'll shoot them down, I'll board them.
Yep.
For fun, because boarding is
sure.
genuinely really fun.
Yep.
Right. Even if they don't want to, they whinge and complain and call me names, and they're like, you know, it's just like, if you think I'm the bad guy, man, you're in for a real treat.
Yeah.
I find it hilarious that people make me the bad guy, and it's like you don't know what being a bad guy means.
To put it on TV. Yeah.
Like, and the thing is, the Star Citizen community is very soft. They're very plush. Yep. They're very rainbows and bunnies, and they have this very idealistic view of the world. But the thing is, like, human nature is human nature. So, and that translates to any game, to any multiplayer environment. And so I'm not worried because, you know, they want to make me out to be the bad guy, or you out to be the bad guy, or, you know, these different groups. And it's like, when there's stuff to lose, when there's things to fight over, they are going to come screaming to us for help. Yep. Like, I know we said like terrible things about you for 10 years, but please help us.
It's like
because how do we stop the goons or like, NC Dot or Pandemic Legion?
It's like when it's like the islands that are going to have all the treasure on them have PvP sharks you got to get through. You know, like you got to swim through those waters and get past the sharks. That's when and that's the thing, is the kind of entitlement of the people that aren't interested in PvP, but then they want everything, you know, as well. And they're going to realize like, oh, we can't mine this, or, oh, we're not making these kind of profits. So then they dip their toes in PvP. Yeah, and then they start to dip their toes in it, and they start to enjoy it, because that's the thing, right? No one's a PvPer until you've got that dopamine. When you get that dopamine hit, you're going to fall in love with it very quickly, I assure you. But that's the thing, right? And I'm of the same opinion, right? Like I will shoot anything that comes across my path. I'm one of those horrible guys. Call me a murder hobo if you will. But I don't go seeking it out. And if someone crosses my path, unlucky for you, because like I'm probably gonna see what you've got on your character.
But hold on. What if there was something to fight over? Like, let's say you had, well, I don't know. Again, this is incentives. What if you had a player base, and that player base was an alliance member, and so this guy flies across here that you've never met, and he's an alliance member, and you go to yourself, that's a blue, that's a friend of mine. He's in my alliance. I'm not going to shoot him. And all of a sudden, players start to form groups and tribes. And those tribes and troops start to fight other tribes and groups. And you have tribalistic warfare.
And bad relationships get caught out. And there's politics. It's like the meta game, right? It's like it evolves. And I always preach this in my videos too. It's like the best way to utilize and give the PvE players they want is to make them necessary for the PvPers. Like if, for example, and this is to flip it on the reverse, if your organization and my organization are dependent on the logistics of PvE players, say, for example, like it works in EVE, we need minerals in high security, but our reputation is so bad in high security that we can't get in there, or we're not willing to go mine ice asteroids for the next 10 months.
I see where you're going with this.
If we need to purchase off them, then there becomes a relationship, right? And then, for example, you're flying around in your whatever system it is, and then you're getting targets showing up on your radar. You're like, oh, no, can't kill these guys, because these guys are the PvE guys that are funding our alliance, you know, or bringing us these materials from these systems. So it's like to make them reliant on each other. You can have players clean up the PvP themselves, and make them dependent on each other.
If you give them incentives to do it. And that's the thing. If you take Quantanium, for example, I'm not saying they should do this. I'm saying, for example, if they were to have taken Quantanium out of Stanton, or limited by 98%, so there's like maybe once in a while you might see some Quantanium. It's like, oh my God, it's so rare.
If it was only in Pyro.
So then all of a sudden, these you know, and if we get server meshing working, I mean, larger groups of players are going to be able to function together. And you're going to have groups of players looking for like alliance membership, you know, and what's going to happen is these groups of players are going to go out there and they're going to encounter other groups of players, and depending on how they function internally and how their reputation with other groups are, or how good their own leadership is, how good the actual people themselves can interact with each other, will depend on whether or not that particular crew is going to become food for this roaming band of hobos. And again, if there's lots of roaming bands of hobos, but then there's a big alliance that comes by and has double the manpower and a lot of great pilots and a lot of infrastructure and a lot of like alliance tools, then all of a sudden their miner, like that alliance's miners will always be safe.
Yeah.
And these kind of murder hobos will kind of be like, don't go after those guys. It's way too difficult to kill them. Let's go after these guys that don't defend themselves.
Yeah. And then you force everyone into relationships with each other and to make decisions. Oh, it's so good, man. And you know what the issue is? There's no economy. And this is what I complain about, right? The most is that there's no binding economy between any of us. Like, I never ever shoot at someone's ship and think it ever did any damage. Like at best, you wasted 2 minutes of the time and maybe they had some cool armor on. You know, like, but an economy needs to come, and it needs to come now. Like I'm at year 11.
We need money sinks.
Yeah, massive. Like
upkeep. we need AUC money sinks. Like if I lose a ship and I had all military aid components on it, I need to go buy those components again.
Yeah.
Like I don't believe in component. Like I hate to say it, I do not believe in component insurance. I don't think it should be a thing.
Okay.
Like you should have your ship insurance, right? And so if you purchased a Hornet Mark II or a Wildfire or whatever, and that ship gets blown up, then you get it back within a certain period of time, depending on if you want to expedite it or not, because it's always your ship, right? You pay the amount of money to claim it. And then you pay the expedite fee if you want to, like say you have an Idris, you expedite it so it takes 24 hours and not 7 days, right? But it costs you $2 million just to expedite it, so there's some money there. But you're going to make that $2 million back in the 4 extra days you now have of that ship, or 5 extra days you have, because it's going to make its money back as long as you don't lose it again within those 7 days.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So it's like it's worth the investment. Again, it's risk reward, but it comes back stock.
Yep. Yeah.
It comes from the deal. It's a brand new ship. It's a brand new ship. It's stock. All the aftermarket parts you had on it, all the fucking nitrous bottles and underglow lighting. Like, if you get a Honda from fucking the dealership, they're not going to say, "Oh, what'd you have with your Honda when you?" No, they're going to say, "Here's a Honda Accord. That's what you had." Yeah. Right. And you're gonna have to go buy the Brembo. You're gonna have to get the turbo, the Brembo brakes, the fucking all the good stuff, because now there's value associated to getting that equipment. Yeah. Right. And now there's a reason to like, ooh, there's some military A stuff on that guy's ship. Yeah. I'm going to take it.
That guy's juiced out. Yeah. He's got like, really
and
good stuff.
Now there's a reason to like check the battlefield. Lord. Like, maybe someone's got some coolers that are
Dude, the craziest thing about this, I mentioned with Salty Mike last time, is it used to be this way, dude. It used to be this way. You used to lose your components.
When was it?
3.4. 3.4 and before 3.4 is when it did, because this is what we used to do, because we're some sneaky buggers.
This must have been a while ago, because I remember it was like a thing for a short amount of time and everyone complained about it. But the game was really like crashy and stuff, and people lose their ships all the time.
Yeah. Oh,
so you got to be careful. But with 30K protection,
but what we used to do though, dude, is you like the Saber was the meta, right? But the laser repeaters sucked back then. So what we did is we had a Freelancer Max that came with Omnis, and then like another ship came with shields. So what you'd do is you'd own a Saber, but you also owned other ships, and you'd strip the parts off the other ships and then put them onto your Saber, and you have to reclaim them. So you were kind of cheating it anyway. But I loved the fact that you lost stuff. And what was in your hangar was like extremely important rather than just a ship you can summon. Because the problem is
5 years ago, we didn't have inventory and anything like that.
No. But the thing is like, and what bothers me the most about it is like our experience with 323 is going to be what, Avenger? You and me are going to create our characters. We're going to do the new face and makeup and all that jazz. And we're going to make our characters. We're going to walk over to the Orison store. Okay. And we're going to buy all the shields we need, all the weapons we need for about 300, 400K, maybe. We're going to put them on our ships. And then that's it. We're set for the next year and a half until the next wipe. That's it. That's the only cost. And then for us to play in those ships for the next 2 years, maybe by the end of it, all said and done, maybe it cost us 500,000. You know, like it's like bare. The economy's so bubble wrapped. The game is so soft.
It's such a joke.
It's so ridiculous.
It's such a joke. And you make so much money. Like